what America was and what it can become. This is Liberty Town Hall.
Hello, and welcome to Liberty Town Hall. We're joined today by Don Gould, and we're discussing Benghazigate, Obama's great cover-up. Don, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Glenn. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you back. Just your wealth of knowledge on these things just amazes me every time. Tell me about Benghazi. What should everybody know that really is not being talked about out there?
Benghazi is an interesting scenario in a lot of ways. It obviously is a major cover-up that's still ongoing. There's no question about it. I guess the latest happening is the fact that Susan Rice is withdrawn as a candidate for Secretary of State, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. The woman was never really qualified to do the job.
Yeah, she's not qualified for the job anyway, right? Anyone with an attitude like that should never be representing this country.
That's exactly right. She didn't deserve to be still What the story with Benghazi and the major cover-up that's still ongoing, they do not want the American people to really understand what was going on and what Benghazi was. They keep calling Benghazi a consulate. And
it wasn't a consulate.
That in itself was a cover-up. Benghazi, in actuality, was a logistics control point for Gaddafi weapons that the CIA and the Obama
Gaddafi weapons.
Yeah, they were Gaddafi weapons that Gaddafi had stored up here and there. All this stuff surfaced. They claimed they were destroying them. They have pictures that were some of the weapons were destroyed. Most of what they destroyed were weapons that were faulty. They weren't any good. The weapons that were good, they were actually shipping out of Libya into Turkey and thence into Syria. Those weapons were being turned over to organizations fighting Assad, which could justify in a way. But
so
some
really,
of those people were terrorists. Some of those are terrorist organizations. They were actually given
weapons to
terrorist organizations.
When you look at Syria, it's good, bad, and ugly with no good anywhere around, because you have the president of Syria, who is clearly a bad guy and should be actually removed from office one way or the other. And then you have the quote, rebels that are trying to kill him and get him out of office. And neither one of those are really good guys. I mean, you've got Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood attacking the president of Syria saying, we're going to take you over. And yet, who could we support in this? Well, as it turns out, Benghazi, they were running guns and weapons basically through that to feed the rebels, correct? Is that how that worked? So
yeah, that's exactly right.
We actually give Al-Qaeda weapons.
I'm going to go back a few years to basically explain what happened. We're playing the same game that we played in Afghanistan years ago when the Russians were there. The Russians were there, so what did we do? We, through the CIA and through various other organizations, we funneled money
to the rebels that were
Mujahideen.
Right. We give them Stinger missiles to take out all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah, we put a lot of stuff in there. We helped train those guys. We did all kinds of things to help them take out the Russians.
And that's what we just spent $1 trillion in Afghanistan to fight now, right? That's the same group that we just spent over $1 trillion fighting in Afghanistan, correct?
Exactly. We created the Taliban. We created it, and then we went to war with them after they basically supported Osama bin Laden. I mean, we created our own problem. We're doing the same thing in Syria. We did something very similar in Egypt in a different way. You know, we supported
what's
the
happening
Muslim
in Egypt?
Brotherhood.
The Muslim Brotherhood has control of Egypt now, correct?
Exactly.
If we look
Muslim
at the
Brotherhood is supporting this takeover Syria operation. Not only that, but there's Al Qaeda organizations involved. The U.S. government just named one of the organizations that's fighting Assad as an Al Qaeda linked terrorist organization. What happened? What happened there? These people that are trying to take over, basically the rebels came back and said, hey, you can't do that. They're our best fighters. You know, they're the guys that are basically going to take Assad out. Okay, what's going to happen when Assad goes down? Are we going to end up with another Taliban, another Muslim Brotherhood? That's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, when we return after these messages, I want to get your opinion on what the landscape looks like as a whole at this point, with Egypt now under control and Israel, Syria. So when we return, I want to talk to you about what the overall big picture look like there when we return after these messages.
Are you a small business reaching out to a national audience or an established company seeking more exposure? Place your ad on Liberty Town Hall and reach up to 46 million homes nationwide. Call now for a quote.
And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. Don, before the break, we were discussing what the overall big picture is starting to look like now with Egypt gone down. You've got Israel, Syria. All these are all mixed in over there. What's going to happen to our one true ally in the area, Israel, and what's going to happen to the area as a overall? I mean, what kind of threat really is going on here?
It's a gigantic fiasco, Glenn. What you've got is, with the support of the Obama administration, the Muslim Brotherhood that's taken over in Egypt, Al Qaeda and other affiliated organizations have a major role in Libya today. You've got the Syrian situation, and what we're supporting there includes some terrorist organizations. You're going to end up with Assad's going to be gone, which he needs to go, no question about that.
But
you're
the
going to
Muslim
end up
Brotherhood's
with
going to have
another
that, or
scenario
Al Qaeda's going to
where
have.
you've got Al Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood in control in Syria.
So what allies do we have left over there?
They hate Israel. They are determined to wipe Israel out.
Right, wipe them off the map. I mean, Ahmadinejad made it very clear his goal is to eliminate Israel from the face of the earth. So what allies do we have left over there now?
The only allies that are real in that part of the world is Israel. That's it. The others are not allies. They're not allies. They're people that are manipulating the situation. They're people that are taking our money, and they're using us to further their own ends. That's exactly what's going on.
How did Iranian missiles get to the Gaza Strip to be launched on Israel? How did those missiles get there? They didn't make them there.
No.
So if they come from Iran, at what path? Do you think they went through their friends in Syria or even Benghazi to get to the Gaza Strip? Some people have speculated
there's a lot of different routes that they took. The Muslim Brotherhood, in actuality, have routes across that part of the world that they use consistently to move weapons. Some of it comes through. Some of them come through Iraq. Okay, I mean the Iranians, the Shias in Iran are very closely linked with the Shias in Iraq.
Well, what about Pakistan? We haven't brought up Pakistan. They're a nuclear nation. What's the story with somebody sitting over there with their finger on a little bomb? I mean, we're worried about Iran getting the bomb. Pakistan's got it.
That's a major concern. If you read my book, Pakistan was a major player, and Pakistan is more a concern than some of these others, principally due to the fact that they are a nuclear power. They have nuclear weapons. They have a very mixed up, muddled situation in that country. The ISI, their intelligence organization have direct links to the Taliban and other terrorist organizations, sooner or later, a nuclear weapon, one or more, are going to go amiss, and they're going to end up in the hands of one of those terrorist organizations.
Really bad guys.
Yeah. And what do you think they'll do with it?
You mentioned that you talk about this in your book. For our viewers just joining us on this episode, tell them about your book. This is a good book.
9/11: The Global Jihad is it's a thriller. It's an entertaining way of sending a message to America and to the Western world that if we don't stand up and face facts with regard to radical Islam, we will suffer dire consequences.
So this is a fictional book, but yet it talks about all the facts in it. I mean, it's like you put a fictional or a guess of what the future will be like based on all these facts. Is that kind of how the book works?
That's exactly right, Glenn. It's a fictional scenario based on the world as it exists today and based on the capabilities of the various countries involved.
Well, Don, when we return, I want to talk about what the solution is for America and how and what we should be doing over there. Because you spent so much time over there, you know the people really well. I would like to get your opinion on what options America really has when we return after these messages. Hello, my name is Glenn Wilson, host of Liberty Town Hall. I'm reaching out to all the members of the Tea Party all across the country. We are faced with a liberal media that just will not talk about the issues that are facing America today with any honest or straightforward candidness to it. The show has been built for you, the Tea Party people, to have a voice in the media. We cover over 230 stations across the country, prime time, both coasts. I'm asking you to call us for your material that you want to talk about, but also I'm asking you for your help. We need sponsors of the show in order to keep this airwave network going. Please call us, support the show. I'm asking for your help. May God bless you and may God bless America. Thanks. And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. Don, we were discussing the fact that we really don't have a lot of friends left over there in the Middle East right now. How's Saudi Arabia playing into this?
Saudi Arabia is a so-called friend riding a dark horse. What you have to understand about the Saudis is the Wahhabi sect of Islam, which is basically predominant in Saudi. They're spending the money, a great deal of money that we pay them for oil to further the basic goals of radical Islam around the world.
So
they're spending it right, left, and center to further.
U.S. money is funding our enemy. Again, flat out right, make it a quick path. U.S. money is funding our enemy, right, Don?
Exactly.
So energy independence in America, even though we go out and drill and we end up with $4 a gallon of gas, whether we drill it here or get it there, it's $4 that we're not giving our enemy then, right? If we do it here, correct?
That's exactly right. What we need to do is become energy independent, and we need to make that happen. We have the capability. We've got our friends in the north who've got untold volumes of oil. We're using fracking in this country to produce, make fields produce that we never had the capability to produce.
Get a lot more natural gas out of fracking, yeah, absolutely, and oil.
Exactly. We have the capability.
So if we cut off
make that happen.
If we cut off their money flow, that would help. So we quit funding our enemies. That would be part of a solution over there, right?
Yeah.
But what is it really going to take besides just cutting off their funding at this point? Because they've built up quite a bit of resources so far with the money we've given them.
What we have to do is sit down with these people and say, hey, we're serious. We're not going to put up with any more of this terrorism you're sponsoring. We're not going to put up with any of these kinds of things. America has power they fear the power that America has. What they see today is disarray
And weakness.
They see basically weakness, irresponsibility by the administration.
And they use that, and that feeds and makes them more emboldened. Yes.
Exactly.
So a
Exactly.
weak America is really just asking for somebody to punch you in the nose kind of mentality, right?
Yeah, sure. They think you won't use the power, so they're going to come after you. If they believe that you will use it, they'll back away. And you know they're running out of ultimately longer term. They have less oil than we do. They have less oil and gas than we do in North America. They're using it at a rapid pace. Once the oil is gone, they're going to be in dire straits. A good example of that is what's happened in the UAE over the last few years. They have had major cutbacks on a lot of the projects that they were putting on because they're running out of money.
Well, what would happen if we cut off their money supply and we said we're not going to take this anymore? So they're going to feel the crunch on it, right?
Yep.
But you have the bad Muslims mixed in with the, let's say, good Muslims, for lack of a better word of using good or bad.
Okay. Yeah.
So if somebody commits a terrorist act and then goes hides in your basement, and I blow up your house with you and your family in it because although you were a good Muslim, you protected someone that's doing these terrorist attacks. America doesn't want to go blow up somebody's house that didn't attack us. So how do we actually stop people when they're hiding amongst the moderates or the ones that don't want to attack us? How do we sift them out? And is somebody guilty? The other part of this, is somebody guilty as the terrorist is if they protect the terrorist? Should we not worry about that?
Just use the law as an example, Glenn. If you protect a fugitive in this country, you're guilty of a crime.
Okay.
If they protect a terrorist, they're guilty of a crime. What they need to do is they need to wake up and face facts. They need to shut down the terrorism on their side.
But when you have 5 people living in a house and only one's secretly doing it off the side, or telling everybody, don't you say anything or I'll kill you. You know what I mean? Then you got these 4 innocents that are being killed if we wipe out that house.
They need to throw him out, and that's the message we need to send. They need to throw him out. They need to get rid of these people. They need to shut them down. If they really believe that Islam is a religion of peace, then they should be shutting them down every day. If they really believe that. So
far we have cut off their funding, draw the line saying we're not going to put up with this anymore, and then tell the people that are harboring these evil ones that you'll be held accountable if you harbor them. So
exactly.
That's the third thing, right?
Exactly.
And what do we do about Israel? When we return after this message, we got to take a short break here, and I want to get into Israel when we return.
Are you a small business reaching out to a national audience or an established company seeking more exposure? Place your ad on Liberty Town Hall and reach up to 46 million homes nationwide. Call now for a quote.
And welcome back to Liberty Town Hall. Don, when we left off, we were discussing Israel. They're surrounded by country after country that really doesn't like them. Iran, for example, is one that has openly stated, Benghazigate said he wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, and he'll be rewarded by his religious leader, I guess, coming back and praising him for it. So what does Israel do, and how does Iran play into all this?
Israel is in a very tough position in the part of the world that they're in. They're surrounded by enemies. That's basically what it boils down to.
Completely.
They're really, in reality, Glenn, Israel is the only real ally that we have in that part of the world.
But are we really an ally to Israel anymore? I mean, haven't we kind of left them hanging out here?
This administration has definitely done that. They're playing silly games. This administration favors Islam. There is no question in my mind, or it shouldn't be in anybody's mind with regard to that. Obama favors Islam.
Well, Obama said he wanted to roll the borders back to the 67 boundaries, right? The 1967 boundaries. But
those borders are not they're not defendable. That is the problem with that.
Well, what about Israel as a whole and the Gaza Strip, for example? They just got bombarded by missiles that were made in Iran. So how is Iran and the Gaza Strip playing into all this?
Iran is a major supporter, a major provider of weapons, of funding for the Palestinians, Hamas, Hezbollah, most of the terrorist organizations that surround Israel and hate Israel they get their provisions from Iran. Iran supports them all.
So no matter what group this is, they all say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So if you hate Israel, then we're friends. So
yeah, exactly.
So Israel's really surrounded by a unified front, even though they're all underneath different names and different fractions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of different sects, a lot of different factions and so forth that fight among themselves, but they all hate Israel, and they're
all getting funded by Iran.
Exactly, funded by Iran. In certain cases, in too many cases, funded by the U.S. Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, they hate Israel.
Well, that's what we were talking about in the earlier segment on all the different ways the U.S. is actually funding our enemies here.
Right.
Before we run out of time today, I wanted to ask you, what should the U.S. be doing in relationship to Israel? How should we be handling what's going on over there?
Israel is our major ally, and we should be supporting them all the way. We should do that not only with money and weapons, but we should do it publicly, very, very forcefully, and we should be sending the message to these terrorist organizations and to the Islamic states that support them.
So very clearly stand up and say,
you take us on.
You so much as pick a fight with Israel, and we are in the game right here, right from the beginning. It's like picking a fight with us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So then how does Russia and China play into this? Because
basically,
we're running into issues
Russians,
with them.
Admitted in the last couple of days that their major ally, who's basically Syria, Assad, they think he's going to go down. They're backing out. They're actually starting to move their people out of Syria on a massive basis. They see the end coming. Now they're going to play some games and they're going to try to do some things.
But bottom line, if the United States stood up and said, "This is it. You're drawing a line. We're not going to take it anymore," you think Israel or Russia and China would back down?
Yeah, I think they would. Neither one of those countries, Glenn, in reality, neither China nor Russia want to go to war with the U.S., okay? They don't like it, but we are still the sole superpower on this small planet we call Earth, and they are not going to take us on unless it is unless they're going to. The only way they would is if they were going to go down the tube themselves.
Well,
they're not going to do it otherwise.
Don, we're out of time for today, but I do encourage all of our viewers to get your book, 9/11 to Global Jihad. You have a great wealth of experience in dealing with the people in the area and travel in that whole region. And I thank you very much for sharing your wisdom here on Liberty Town Hall.
Thank you, Glenn. I'm always glad to spend time with you and to talk about the things that are very urgently need to be discussed today.
Well, you're truly a patriot, Don, and we're glad to have you on the show. Hope we have you back again. Well, that's all the time we have today on Liberty Town Hall. We'll see you next time as we discuss your liberties and how you can protect them. God bless.
Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. Thomas Paine, The American Crisis, number 1, December 19th, 1776.